We have the latest on the WWE return of Bray Wyatt, but first we have an update on an upcoming WWE push. On last night's news video, we would discuss a report from BWE on Twitter who noted that LA Knight is set to receive an on-screen push after this year's SummerSlam event on August 6th, this following the groundswell of support that's been behind him from fans as of late. A new report from Wade Keller on PW Torch has since emerged, who noted that whilst Knight has impressed both Triple H and Vince McMahon, certain sources within the company feel that backstage issues may become a factor in this push ending, and they would note, Knight has a long-running reputation for rubbing people the wrong way behind the scenes and just being bad at backstage politics. Those who know him well tend to like him, and some of them have spoken up on his behalf when Knight gives a bad first impression. Knight's surging crowd reactions and social media popularity have landed him on the radar of Triple H and Vince McMahon as being a candidate for a big push after SummerSlam. PW Torch sources indicate if his push isn't sustained, even if crowds still like him, it'll likely be because he mishandled himself backstage in a way that caused him to lose the support of key people who can influence his push. It could be a case that a WWE source is planting negative stories into the media to potentially sour the mood towards Knight going forward, or to set up excuses as to why the company won't get behind him despite fans being 100% behind him. We'll now have to wait to see how things play out both on and off screen later this summer. And just quickly before we continue, be sure to check out my latest video, 10 Facts MJF Doesn't Want You to Know, something I've been working on for many months at this point. In the video, we pose the question of who is the real Maxwell Jacob Friedman, and is the persona we see the real him? I guarantee you'll learn a whole bunch of things about the man that claims to be better than you, just don't tell him I told you so. And next up, the Briscoes are set to debut in action figure form. Earlier this year, the wrestling world would be shaken by the news that former ROH World Champion Jay Briscoe had sadly passed away following a road accident in Delaware. Since then, Jay's brother Mark has appeared on both AEW and ROH television as a singles act as he looks to continue the family legacy inside the squared circle. Well, at this week's San Diego Comic Con, news would break that Jazzwares, the company responsible for the AEW wrestling figure line, are set to launch Ring of Honor figures, with the first line set to include the Briscoes and many more names from the company's past. The first line will see Mark and Jay Briscoe, Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, Claudio Castagnoli, the Young Bucks, Danhausen, Kenny Omega, and Bryan Danielson, all of which being based on their look during their time in ROH. But will you be getting your hands on the brand new Ring of Honor wrestling figures? Let me know in the comments down below. Next up, has a wrestling legend just retired on AEW Collision? Let's move on to our first story from last night's episode of AEW Collision, a show that saw the House of Black defend their AEW Trios Championships against The Acclaimed and Billy Gunn. In the end, a black mass was enough to put Gunn away for the 1-2-3 in what could be the last match of his career. After the bell, Buddy Matthews and Malachi Black would whisper something into Billy's ear, causing him to unlace his boots before leaving them in the middle of the ring. Anthony Bowens and Max Caster would then attempt to talk Billy round to changing his mind before he instead pushed past the duo before making his way to the back. Taking to Twitter after the show, Billy's son Colton Gunn would send a message to his father and he would say, "We aren't on the best terms right now, but thank you, no other words need to be said." This was then followed by a tweet from Austin Gunn who said, "All jokes aside, thank you for everything. Never needed a big send-off, never asked for anything, just went out there and had fun, and even though we haven't seen eye to eye recently, we love you." It does feel like this moment is simply setting up a storyline going forward, a storyline that will be centered around the future of Billy Gunn. Whilst his son's breaking kayfabe would suggest otherwise, it does feel almost like a double bluff where they're breaking kayfabe in order to maintain the kayfabe that Billy is in fact retiring. But do you think Billy Gunn has just retired? Let me know in the comments down below. Next up, a huge ladder match has been announced in AEW. Speaking of the aforementioned trios match, the House of Black have been involved in an ongoing rivalry with Andrade Elidolo ever since the first episode of Collision, with the faction stealing the Idol's entrance mask, the centerpiece of the feud. Well, Andrade will now have a chance to get his mask back from the house, this when he battles Buddy Matthews next week on Collision in a ladder match, with the mask hanging high above the ring. As well as this announcement, it was also confirmed that El Hijo del Vikingo will team with Action Andretti and Darius Martin to take on Bullet Club Gold's Juice Robinson and the Guns next Saturday night. The two new matches add to the already announced AEW Tag Team title match between champions FTR and Blind Eliminator Tag Tournament winners MJF and Adam Cole. And next, CM Punk has declared himself as the real AEW World Champion. Last night's episode of AEW Collision would open up with a promo from Men's Owen Hart Foundation tournament winner Ricky Starks, who used the ropes to his advantage to pick up a tainted win against the Second City Saint in last week's final. Punk would then interrupt the celebrations, noting that he's not mad at Ricky, admitting that he's cheated in the past too, although he would state that Ricky can't beat CM Punk without stooping to such lows. During the promo, Punk would reference the red bag that he's been carrying around as of late, believed to contain the AEW World title belt that he never lost, before declaring that he is the real AEW World's Champion, before once again teasing a renewed feud with MJF to see who the real champion is. This would then lead to an appearance from Darby Allin, Luchasaurus, and self-proclaimed TNT champion Christian Cage, setting up a tag match for the show's main event, with Punk and Allin taking on Starks and Cage. The match itself would end in similar fashion to last week, with Ricky Starks reversing a roll-up from Allin into one of his own, before once again using the ropes to his advantage to secure the victory for his team. Next up, a former AEW star has discussed their future in wrestling. Earlier this month, news broke that the All Elite Wrestling contract of Brian Pillman Jr. had come to an end, with it later being revealed that he was spotted at the WWE Performance Center days later, a sign that he could be NXT bound. Pillman would take part in a virtual signing this weekend with Captain's Corner, where he would address his next step in wrestling, hinting that he has a huge opportunity coming up, potentially in reference to his recent trial period with WWE, and he would say, "It's a tough business and it's a long road to the top if you want to rock and roll. Being here today and getting to reminisce about some of the past moments of my career has really cheered me up and put me in a position to where I'm excited for the future. There is a lot to come. I can't speak on it right now. It's kind of in the works. I have a huge moment, a huge opportunity coming up in my career to continue making memories, to continue coming up with new gear ideas and sharing my vision of pro wrestling with you all. Thank you for supporting me." We now wait to see if the opportunity mentioned is in fact linked to the WWE Performance Center appearances, something that would no doubt be a smart move on Brian's behalf in order to take his career to the next level. And next up, an AEW signing has been confirmed. For more than 3 years, Zach Clayton has been appearing in an All Elite Wrestling ring, debuting on AEW Dark in 2020, whilst most recently wrestling on AEW Rampage as recently as March 2023. Over the past few months, he's been a member of the Ring of Honor roster, with him scoring his first win at this week's Newark tapings of ROH TV. According to a fresh report from Fightful Select, Clayton has in fact signed a full-time AEW contract, and they would write, Zach Clayton revealed back in November that he'd signed a deal with AEW. We've been told that it is actually a full-time Tier 1 deal. Clayton was added to the AEW roster page fairly recently after not being on it the first several months of his deal. As well as appearing in AEW, Zach is a recurring cast member of the Jersey Shore Family Vacation reality show alongside fiancée Jenny J. Wow Farley, who is a member of the original Jersey Shore crew. And next, Roman Reigns has made a surprise defense of his undisputed Universal title. Last night, WWE would head to Mexico City for the next stop of their ongoing live event tour, where a lucha legend stepped up to the tribal chief. The show would see Rey Mysterio take on Roman Reigns in last night's main event, this just 2 weeks before Reigns' SummerSlam match against cousin Jey Uso. As expected, Roman would leave as still champion, although the match marks only the second time that he's defended his belt since his win over Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania 39, with the only other defense since then taking place in Cincinnati, Ohio at another live event on June 17th, which again was against Rey Mysterio. The undisputed Universal Champion now moves on to Jey Uso on August 6th, when the two meet under Tribal Combat rules, where anything goes. And now we have the latest on the WWE return of Bray Wyatt. In the lead up to WrestleMania 39, Bray Wyatt would disappear from WWE television in the middle of his rivalry with Bobby Lashley, and he hasn't been seen since. There's been a ton of speculation surrounding his absence, although it appears that we may be edging closer to seeing him again on screens. According to a report from BWE on Twitter, fans could see Wyatt as soon as the upcoming SummerSlam Premium Live event on August 6th, with him potentially set to feud with one of the company's biggest names, and the report notes, Bray has been around a few times. His plans are there for his return, a feud suggested and approved by everyone. It's only a call of when. The discussion is for SummerSlam, so I'd keep an eye on one of the main events of that night. It's unclear which main event Bray Wyatt could be involved in, although you'd imagine it'll be either the Roman Reigns Jey Uso match, the Finn Balor Seth Rollins match, or Cody Rhodes Brock Lesnar match. But which of those 6 men do you want to see Wyatt confronting at SummerSlam next month? Let me know in the comments down below. And before you go, make sure you check out 10 facts that MJF doesn't want you to know.